Now, please welcome our last webinar's keynote speaker, the Indian-born, New York City raised and inhabitant, citizen of the world, Nusrat Durrani. Nusrat, I met in Thessaloniki very recently, and let me tell you that he's a pioneer and media executive, inspired and leading teams to develop transformative, multi-platform content and branded entertainment for commercial and social impact. Nusrat has been the founder of MTV World, which he general managed and of which he was the senior vice president for 20 years. Welcome, Nusrat, and thanks for accepting our invitation.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I am in some stage of jet lag. I don't know which one because I've been traveling for a long time. So forgive me if I appear a little confused or something like that. But I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. So we can proceed to your speech.
Well, as I was speaking with you, Elena, actually don't have a speech. And I also think that, um, a middle-aged man talking about Gen Z issues is really shouldn't be a speech, first of all, because uh, I'm not of the Gen Z cohort, and I also actually don't particularly enjoy being a middle-aged man giving any speech. but 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 having said that, I'm very inspired by Gen Z, by the Gen Z audience and by the Gen Z cohort, and I am happy to share some of my insights, and hopes and dreams and aspirations with the young audience. Uh, One thing I also mentioned to you in Thessaloniki is that a discussion around Gen Z should actually include Gen Z. And I think that perhaps this will be seen by young people everywhere and they can share in our discussion. I just want to say that I've spent my entire career actually um, in service of the young, being, inspired by them, being trying to inspire them, trying to connect with them, trying to reflect their hopes and dreams and joy and, confusion. And it's been my life's great gift. I think that I really have had a very, um, it's been a joy and a pleasure. And now I have somebody from the Gen Z generation who is my daughter. And so that's also very interesting because in her, I see all the changes that have happened to younger people and the way that, people in the ages of, let's say, 15 to 24, how they engage with the world, how they view the opportunities around them, how they view media, etc. So, to give you a very small example as we begin this, uh, my daughter was born in 2000, so she's 21 years old. And, before she was born, and even during her early years, MTV was the brand of record for youth. Any young person, any teenager would be either watching MTV or know of MTV or getting their information, their pop culture from MTV. And it's so interesting that my daughter, I mean, her father worked for MTV and was a general manager there. She never watched MTV. And in fact, not only did she not watch MTV, she didn't watch any TV at all. She was getting all of her information, her entertainment, and her, music and pop culture from other platforms. And, so to my great disappointment, I was not able to impress her with the fact that I was working for the world's most powerful youth brand. But actually, this speaks to, just one change that it's in the way that I think our younger generation consumes media is absolutely completely different from the way that the generation before them, which were the millennials, and then consumed content. These young people were born, as you rightly mentioned, Lena, that they were actually there. It is the first truly uh, internet-based generation. They've grown up knowing social media, with social media, and with digital technology. But I think that is just a very, very simple thing. That's a matter of technology. I think that from my experiences with this young audience, these young people, I've come to some other sort of impressions and conclusions. Some of them you can find in research as well. But there are also things I've learned from directly engaging with with folks, with the young people from, like, let's say the ages of even 10 to 25, 26, whatever. The first thing is that this is a generation I feel that um, has inherited a lot of our problems that we have bestowed upon them, primarily climate change, and the degradation of the environment. Um, and I think they're extremely aware of it. They're painfully aware of it. They're doing something about it, which is a separate issue, but they're aware of it. They're also, uh, young people that have grown up very sensitive to the issues of our time, inequality, racial injustice, things like that, oppression in many parts of the world. And I remember when I was maybe 15 or 16, I didn't have the awareness of what the world is going through as much as people in their from like 15 to 24 have now. And the conversations I have with them about these things are really eye-opening and incredibly inspiring to me. So that's just one thing, that this is a generation that is actually very aware of what is happening in the world and their place in it. The other side of this is that this is an incredibly empowered generation. These aren't kids that are waiting around for adults like us to fix the problems we've created for them. If anything, they're quite disdainful of some of the solutions that we're offering. Take the recent COP 25 or 26 thing that happened against around the environment, the climate change. There were young people outside, obviously led by Greta Thunberg and others, really making fun of the inability of older generations to save the planet, taunting us, inspiring us, wagging their fingers at us. And I think that is actually fantastic. It's great to see this happening, because we do need to be held to task. This is a generation also that is inherently global. I can only compare it with myself. When I was growing up in India, yes, I was exposed to Western culture through music and some Western films and literature, which was actually the consequence of, I would argue, cultural imperialism, because the West was bombarding us. Having left our countries, the West was still bombarding us with their culture. So I was the recipient of that. So that was my awareness of the world. I didn't travel too much when I was, when I was a teenager. But now things are different. You know, anyone who's young today and is engaging in digital media and social media is inherently global. They are very aware of the lives of their counterparts in in different places of the world, and they are therefore much, much more tolerant of cultural differences, of racial differences, etc., etc. This is an inherently global generation. And the level of empathy I see these young people um, display and act upon is really mind blowing. I'll give you the most recent example. I was in Estonia where my film was premiering, and I happened up to meet two boys. I won't take their names. Two boys. One was 11, the other is 14. Um, and I actually they were there with their mother, and we started talking because one of them is an actor, and he was in a film I had just seen. And the conversation over the 1.5 hours actually completely reset my view of life itself. To be honest, it's that crazy. Why? First of all, these two boys were incredibly optimistic. They have assumed already that they will be able to solve the big problems of our time. They told me that for them, the biggest issue confronting young people was climate change. The other big issue that they said was that confronted us was inequality. And I asked them specifically questions around what they thought about racial injustice, what they thought about disparity, what they thought were the good platforms to be on, or the platforms they didn't like to be on. And they gave me incredibly articulate responses listing for me the social media platforms and the personalities that they thought as young people they were critical of, and then the ones that they were spending most of their time on and thought were the more sort of like appropriate platforms. I'll just give you two examples. One, actually, I'll give you one example because I don't want to necessarily say I'm endorsing these views or not. For none of them are. Both the boys were not on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, um, Twitter, or any of these platforms. The platform that they most frequent is Discord. And in case you don't know what Discord is a social media platform for it's predominantly for gamers. These boys lead a very rich and very active life in the world of coding, for example. They have avatars, they do animation, they're going to school, uh, and they have a powerful drive to actually change things. Again, these boys are 11 and 14. When I was that age, I don't know, I was playing with marbles. You know, I had no idea of what was going on in the world. And, I was just a mama's boy. And I think it's incredibly inspiring to see to be in these conversations. Um, the other thing, I know this is a very kind of, it's not really a keynote, I'm just sharing some impressions, is that's to talk about creativity, is that we live in a creator economy, and the platforms that have most connected with are most resonant with the young people we're discussing today are ones that allow them to express their creativity and take ownership of the content they create. And those would be TikTok and Douyin, for instance, which is a Chinese platform. Between them, these two platforms reach 1.2 billion young people, which is astonishing. It's very large. And the ability to express oneself, whether it be in short form content on TikTok or on a gaming, essentially gaming platforms like Discord or Twitch, is something that is inherent and incredibly important to this generation. Not only have they done this, they're the means to express themselves fully and richly on these platforms, but also to monetize their content. So I'll give you a quick example of that. In the realm of music, there's an entire genre or movement, if you will, of music, which is called PC music or bedroom music. And these are kids, like literally as young as from 12 to 20 years old, creating music on their laptops in their bedrooms. And some of it is really crazy, and it's mashing up different genres, and it's taking from this and that. Some of these people don't even know how to sing, or they're not professional musicians, but they're putting out tons of music, bypassing traditional music industry platforms, not going to labels, not doing any of that. They're posting their songs, their music directly on SoundCloud, on YouTube, and on TikTok, etc., and sometimes gathering millions and millions of viewers. Example, there's an artist called Glaive, Glaive. This is a 16-year-old boy from North Carolina who put his music. He put out a bunch of songs as EPs on SoundCloud, and then went to YouTube, and then to TikTok, etc. Gained a very large following and now is a sensation because he has just signed a major label record deal. This is a 16-year-old boy. This tells me something about the empowerment I believe that these young people have. And I think it's incredibly inspiring that you are able to hack the system, which would otherwise take years and years and years for you to navigate. And by the time you're done with it, you're already burnt out and disillusioned and disappointed. Um, so this generation is actually using the technologies they inherited and were born into really, really well. I just want to say one last thing, and then I'm, I can answer any questions. And that is that not every, not, I'm so sorry, not every young person is the same. We tend to generalize people through various demographics, and we give them names like Gen Z and Gen Y and millennials. And to some extent, this is actually incredibly, I think, odious because in the end, these are human beings and they all have very different experiences. And there are 1.9 billion. There are 1 point. I'm so sorry. There are 1.9 billion people in the age group 15 to 24. It's roughly 20% of the world. Of these, 85% of them, which is roughly 1.6 or something like that, 1.6 billion people live outside the Western Hemisphere. So the lives of those 1.6 billion people that are not in the United States is significantly different, depending on where you are, than their counterparts in the West. And these sort of descriptions, that Gen Z, Gen Y, millennial, these are all usually they originate in the West and in America specifically, because we are trying to simplify it all, and these are commercial terms. But we mustn't forget that someone growing up in the youngest continent, which is Africa. Africa, as you know, is the youngest continent. In fact, the median age in Niger, which is a West African country, is 15. It's the youngest country in the world. A 15-year-old growing up in Niger has a significantly different life, significantly different aspirations, joys, and sorrows than their counterpart in America. And I think that when we program or create content or talk about even Gen Z and young people from around the world, we tend to sort of paint them in one color, and I think that that is a huge mistake. Uh, the Middle East, for instance, one of the biggest issues with young people in the Middle East is unemployment, and almost 35 to 40% of people in the ages of 15 to 35 are unemployed. So yes, we can keep bombarding them with Western style entertainment, but we need to be a little bit more nuanced in the way we actually address these young people in the Middle East. So again, if you go, depending on which continent and country you're talking about, things are different. So while I think it's good to be talking about Gen Z, I think we need to be very mindful that young people in different parts of the world are unique in many, many ways, and we must always be mindful. And with that, I've, I think spent my time. I mean, I don't want to be late to delay somebody else. If you have any questions or comments, I'm here to take them. I hope you found this um, freewheeling rant useful. Um, Happy to answer any questions.
Nusrat, that was not only revealing but also thorough, comprehensive, and a very um, wide viewpoint on Gen Z coming, I guess, from your experience, and I thank you for that. We thank you for these viewpoints and for pointing out the global generation, and also bringing up the vast differences between Western culture and other culture of the world. And because I'm an optimistic person, I believe also you share this optimism with me. Maybe the abundance of information through social media maybe will be a factor diminishing this big gap between the different cultures of Gen Zers. And let's keep that in mind. And please, if anyone has questions for or remarks or thoughts you want to share with us and Nusrat, please write on chat and we will make sure that we will get back to you. Thank you so much, and we wish you a great success with your latest movie, An American Prayer.